السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته.
الله أكبر الله أكبر الله أكبر الله أكبر أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله أشهد أن محمدًا رسول الله أشهد أن محمدًا رسول الله حي على الصلاة حي على الصلاة حي على الفلاح حي على الفلاح الله أكبر الله أكبر لا إله إلا الله
إن الحمد لله نحمده ونستعينه ونستغفره ونعوذ بالله من شرور أنفسنا ومن سيئات أعمالنا من يهده الله فلا مضل له ومن يضلل فلا هادي له وأشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له وأشهد أن محمدًا عبده ورسوله أما بعد فإن أصدق الحديث كتاب الله تعالى وأحسن الهدي هدي محمد صلى الله عليه وسلم وشر الأمور محدثاتها وكل محدثة بدعة وكل بدعة ضلالة وكل ضلالة في النار. قال الله تعالى: يا أيها الذين آمنوا اتقوا الله حق تقاته ولا تموتن إلا وأنتم مسلمون. يا أيها الناس اتقوا ربكم الذي خلقكم من نفس واحدة وخلق منها زوجها وبث منهما رجالا كثيرا ونساء واتقوا الله الذي تساءلون به والأرحام إن الله كان عليكم رقيبا. يا أيها الذين آمنوا اتقوا الله وقولوا قولا سديدا يصلح لكم أعمالكم ويغفر لكم ذنوبكم ومن يطع الله ورسوله فقد فاز فوزا عظيما. ثم أما بعد. All thanks and praise is due to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, for we seek His help and His forgiveness, and we seek refuge in Allah from the evil within ourselves and the consequences of our evil deeds. Whoever Allah guides can never be led astray, and whoever Allah leads astray can never find guidance. And I bear witness that Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam is His last and final messenger. The nations that came before us were sent for a reason, and that reason being so that the lessons or the experiences and the events that occurred within that nation were lessons for us to learn from, so that way we don't repeat those same mistakes. If you look at all the nations that came, they had one major sin and they had one major punishment. And today I was going to talk about Hajj, to be honest with you guys, but I'm sure someone before me or next week or the week previously is going to talk about it. But there's one issue that's within our society that is being pushed for us to accept. And as Muslims, it's important that we stand our grounds and we make sure that we are respectful to everyone, because our actions are a reflection of our deen. However, our beliefs are firm and we don't allow our beliefs to be shaken. That being said, we look at the story of Prophet Lut alayhi salam. He was sent from Allah, he was bestowed prophethood. He was a rich man, and the people of his of the city of Sodom wanted to make him the leader. And at this time, Prophet Lut alayhi salam was given prophethood from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And we know there's one major sin that was taking over that city. And as taboo of a topic as it is, it needs to be addressed. That sin was homosexuality. And this is a problem that's present in our society today. So this sin was taking over that city. And Prophet Lut alayhi salam went to this city and said, I'm a prophet, obey Allah, the commands that I give you, this is from Allah, obey Allah, worship Allah alone. Alright, and stop doing this act. And what was said? They said, he's clearly in it for something. There's a gain for him. There's a benefit for him. How are you coming to our city and telling us to stop doing what we are doing? Everyone in that city was partaking in that act with the exception of Lut alayhi salam and his daughter. Everyone in the city was committing the sin. You come to our city and you are telling us to stop our sins. So years and years passed, all right? And of course we're going to go over the key components of the story that I want to talk about and the lessons we learn from this. But many people, or actually no people, in many years of spreading the word of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and no one entered the fold of Islam. Lut alayhi salam became, upset. Imagine years and years, we talk about maybe minutes of word, spreading the word of Allah, and we have rebuttals and we get disheartened. Imagine years as a prophet of Allah. You are spreading the word of Allah and no one is entering the fold of Islam. No one is listening to you. If anything, they're refuting you and they are growing in numbers with the action that they are doing. So years pass, all right? And there's 3 men. These men are for us angels, right? They approached Lut alayhi salam, or they entered that city. Before that, they went to Prophet Ibrahim alayhi salam. And this is, towards the end of the story of the city of, or the people of Prophet Lut alayhi salam. But this is where things, or where lessons come for us to learn. Those people go to Ibrahim, and he wants to bring them in, and they sit down. And they say, where is this city? And they mention the city of Sodom. And knowing that these are angels, and knowing that this is a sign, how, for example, Prophet Nuh alayhi salam, he had an oven, not like those Johnson & Johnson ovens in our homes, but an oven from back in the days when water comes gushing forward from that oven. This is a sign that you fill up the ark with every kind of animal, all those, and leave. Same way that this was a sign for Prophet Ibrahim alayhi salam, that these men that came to him, who were in disguise angels, would be a sign that the punishment is coming to the city of Sodom, right? So Prophet Ibrahim alayhi salam, being worried for his nephew, Lut alayhi salam, said that there is Lut within the city. And they said, do not worry, we know more. So you relax, and we'll handle this. Proceeding forward, those 3 men who are again disguised as men, but in reality they are angels, one of them being angel Jibreel alayhi salam, they enter the city. And Lut alayhi salam, as much, of course he's a prophet, he has good etiquette, and as Muslims, we should also have this good etiquette and manners in our lifestyle. Besides the point though. He sees that these men came to the city, and being a prophet of Allah with good mannerisms, he wants to bring them into the city, to invite them as guests, but he knows that that sin is present in that city. And he does not want them to fall victim to that. Because many times he said to the people of that city, the daughters of this nation my daughters are for you. Right? Because that's the way nature works. And what you are partaking in is not what you're supposed to be doing. But that comes later on, inshallah. So these men came to the city. Prophet Lut alayhi salam does not want to tell them to go away because they're guests. And he doesn't want to let them in because what? There's this sin. So he's in a bit of a predicament. But regardless, he says, what? We'll let them come. But we'll make sure that they literally go from the entrance straight to his house. No one sees them, because there's a characteristic of them that said they were very beautiful. They were handsome men. And that handsome quality is a quality of attraction. And when you see someone that's attractive, you get inclined to go to them. And being that that sin was present in that city, their characteristic of attraction would have resulted in those men who were, again, men disguised, the angels disguised as men. Maybe the people would have flocked towards them. Maybe people would have came to them. And Lut alayhi salam, not knowing that these were angels, thinking these were regular men, would have said, oh, they would fall victim to that sin that is present in the city. So this was the thought process of Lut alayhi salam. Proceeding forward, he takes them, makes sure that no one sees them, all right? No one sees these handsome men, 3 men, and he brings them straight to his house. But one person saw. Who was that person? Lut alayhi salam's wife. And I mentioned that it's Lut alayhi salam's wife because not only was that the person who said it, but focus on the fact that it's a person in the family of Lut alayhi salam. So proceeding forward, instead of hiding them, instead of, and again, she was a disbeliever or amongst the disbelievers, instead of hiding them or instead of not telling anyone, she goes to the town and announces to the people, to the men of that city, that Lut alayhi salam went with 3 attractive young men into the house. A'udhu billah. Implying that he was amongst those that were committing that sin. So again, people came, or people were telling Lut alayhi salam that we've been doing this sin, and they see that there is a man who's claiming prophethood that's preaching against our action, and now they're hearing that he went inside his house with 3 attractive young men, and what happened? They rejoiced. They were happy to hear so. Because what? Now this man that has been preaching against us is now amongst us. So they go to his house, they pound on his door, and Lut alayhi salam is frustrated because he knows he's not doing this. All right? He knows that that he's not committing the sin. They pound on his door, and he's infuriated. And he says, is there not among you a man of reason? Is there not someone, with a brain? Is that someone that's in the right state of mind? And, he calls out to them, tells them that, like I mentioned earlier, that the daughters of this nation, my daughters are for you. And the men reply that, this is not what we want. This is not what we want. And again, they're rejoicing at the news that Lut alayhi salam has entered his home with 3 handsome young men. And again, mentioning that this is a very taboo topic, but it needs to be addressed. Too many people are afraid to speak about it. Too many people let this underlying issue stay underlying. But it's important that we address it. Moving on back to the story, right? He's infuriated. Imagine a whole nation, all right? And not one of them is favoring you besides your own daughter. No one is there. No one is entering the fold of Islam. And he says, can I not, have a power? Can I not seek a power or a stronger power to be against you guys, right? Again, this is a bit of a paraphrasing. I don't remember the exact words he said, but basically, can I seek refuge in a higher power to basically, be able to combat or refute against you? And those angels call out. And the angels let them know that they are not actually men, but they are rather angels. And of course, that higher power that he can seek, help in is Allah. So Angel Jibreel steps out and he strikes, being that an angel is supernatural, strikes all the men, and the men go blind. The men go completely blind. And they say, what's this magic? Or, they start complaining and they say, watch out what's coming for you tomorrow. Right? You did this to us, you turned us blind. Watch what's coming for you, Lut alayhi salam, in the morning. Right? Watch this what's coming to you. Just be ready. And then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala orders Lut alayhi salam to leave that city with his daughter. Do not look back. There's going to be one person, your wife is going to be amongst those people. So you and your daughter, flee, all right? And just watch what's going to happen to them. And what happens? Nighttime comes, and there's a loud, piercing cry within that city, meaning a sound, loud, piercing sound. God forbid, you pass by one of these trucks and trunk honks its horn and the ears are ringing, right? A loud, piercing cry. After that, Angel Jibreel, by the edge of his wing, lifted up the city, turned it and slammed it on the ground. The entire city, right? The entire city was turned upside down and crushed to the ground. And also, this is something I myself did not, know until recently, that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala set down stones or rocks with the name of every disbeliever in that nation, who it was intended for. That stone was intended for those individuals. So stones came raining down upon that city with the names of the disbelievers. This is the punishment that those individuals received. A whole nation being taken up and slammed to the ground. God forbid we have an earthquake over here and everything is in shambles, right? Now imagine, literally, and this is something beyond our realm of understanding. right? Because this was a punishment from Allah. This wasn't something normal. Something that obeys the laws of physics. A whole nation being lifted up. A whole, entirely, a whole city being lifted up and slammed to the ground. Now this area, right now, is known as the Dead Sea. And amongst those people were Lut alayhi salam's wife. And before we end the first half of the khutbah, I want to mention that although she may have not committed the sin directly, as Muslims, Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam tells us three things, right? Or one thing that we can do and three responses to that thing. When we see something that is wrong, we can do three things. We can stop it physically. If you can't stop it physically, you stop it verbally. And if you can't stop it verbally, you stop it with being or disagreeing with it in your heart. Can't stop it physically, can't stop it verbally, at least disagree with that action in your heart. And this is the lowest level of Iman. That you disagree with that action. You see it, you can't stop it physically, verbally, you at least acknowledge that this action is haram. And focus on this two things, Lut alayhi salam's wife and the fact that she normalized or allowed this action or she didn't think much of it. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to protect us from all sins. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to allow us to become better Muslims. And we ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to allow us to learn lessons from the nations before us. أقول قولي هذا واستغفر الله لي ولكم. Alhamdulillah wa salatu wa salam ala rasulillah ma ba'd. So the reason why I mentioned this, and like I said, it's a topic that needs to be addressed. I wanted to talk about Hajj, to be honest, because Hajj is coming up. But that in and of itself is a very good talk. However, this issue needs, and I don't come here every single Friday, but it's something that needs to be addressed and something that we need to understand as Muslims. Our motive or our morals, all right, or our lifestyle and our thought process, Islam revolves, or our mindset and our thought process should revolve around Islam, not Islam revolving around our mindset or our thought process. Because you see, unfortunately, too many people try to normalize things. Too many people try to make haram halal. And unfortunately, with this action being present in today's society, a lot of people are trying to normalize it or allow it or make it somewhat halal in some sort of way, find some loophole. Oh, Lut alayhi salam's city was not destroyed because of this action. This one was present, but it was this. No. We know clearly that this action was present, and we know clearly that this action disobeys the commands of Allah. But what's now happening is that corporate America, cartoons, movies, these things are pushing for our kids, not only us, but for our kids and our future generations to normalize this. And this is extremely, extremely dangerous. All right? Why I mention this is that you should look at what your family is watching. You should look at what your kids are watching. There's so many halal, forget about halal. There's so many alternatives that not only do not incorporate this, but if they want to watch cartoons, they can watch something, their kids, khalas, no problem. But there's so many alternatives that you can have, but you won't even realize that what they're watching is pushing this. And it's pushing this idea, and it's pushing this mentality that this action is okay. It is not okay. It disobeys the commands of Allah, and it is against the rules of Islam. Cartoons, movies. God, you can't even go to a store now without having some product that relates to this. Now, as Muslims, of course, we can't physically stop it. It's very difficult for us to physically stop it. We can verbally express our disagreement with this action, but the least we can do as Muslims is at least in our hearts acknowledge that this is a major sin and it is haram. For us to normalize it, oh, khalas, they're kids, oh, or this action itself, oh, khalas, it's a new generation, oh, khalas, it's 2022. No. This action, 2022, 3022, doesn't matter. Its action is haram. And again, it's being pushed by corporate America. It's being pushed by movies and cartoons. It's being pushed by so many things that are in the household, in stores. So many things that we don't even pay attention to are pushing this idea. And it's being presented to our adults. It's being presented to our teenagers. It's being presented to our children for it to be normalized and for it to be accepted by them. We are Muslims. We have a set, written laws. We have set things. And these things cannot be hindered, nor will they be hindered. So it's important for us as Muslims, be respectful, all right? Because God forbid you say something, it causes legal trouble. Or God forbid you do something physically, it causes legal trouble. That's the last thing we need as Muslims. We're role models for society. So if you can't stop it physically, can't stop it verbally, at least acknowledge that this is a sin. And as Muslims, we should not, oh, you know what, maybe, this person is interviewing me and I want to get this job and this person is amongst this community. So you know what, let me show some support so that way maybe I can get this job. Habibi, forget about your job. You're literally allowing your morals or your Islamic values to be changed because of a job, for example, or whatever the case is. It's a teacher, it's a boss. Our ideas and our rules and regulations and our beliefs are set in stone and we should be firm on it. We are Muslims. There's nothing wrong in America for us to disagree with this thing. Freedom of speech, whatever you want to call it. We're not physically harming someone. We're not laying our hands on someone. If words hurt you, Habib, I'm sorry, toughen up a little bit. But we can express our disagreement. Likewise, the same reason how, as Muslims, we cannot force our deen, not only according to Islamic law, where we cannot force our religion upon someone, but even in this country, we cannot force our religion upon someone. We cannot force someone, go up to someone, tell them, accept Islam, Islam is the truth. They'll tell you a million things. Likewise, they respect us, but they don't accept our religion, that's fine. We can respect them as a human, but we cannot respect this action. There is no respect for this action. Hate the sin, not the person, right? But this action, again, I cannot emphasize it enough, cannot be normalized. It is being pushed in our society, is being pushed to our kids in schools, in the curriculums, in movies. Movies are being banned left and right from Muslim countries because they have this sin, or they have actions of the sin, or things that portray the sin. So be careful of what you yourself watch. Be careful of what you yourself purchase. Be careful of what you yourself or your kids or your families watch. Be careful of what you're spreading around. Be careful of everything, because this is a very sensitive topic, number one. And number two, this is something that is being pushed and we cannot. I emphasize multiple times, I've said it maybe like 20 times already, we cannot allow this to become normal amongst our society, because you're not partaking in the sin. I hope not, astaghfirullah, may Allah protect us all from the sin, but we cannot normalize it as well. Look at Lut alayhi salam's wife. She allowed this action, or she spread this action, not by means of partaking in it, but telling, oh, Lut alayhi salam is in the house with 3 men, or normalizing it, or accepting that this is khalas, no problem. You saw what happened. She was amongst those people in the city, and that city got brought up, turned, and smashed to the ground. She was amongst those. So this is a lesson for us to learn. This isn't just a mere coincidence that this happened. So be careful of everything. Be careful of what your kids are watching. Tell your kids. Tell all those that you know that khalas, this action is haram. Be respectful, all right? Because as Muslims, kuntum khayra ummatin ukhrijat linnas, right? We're the best of people. Your mannerisms your mannerisms should be reflecting of good mannerisms, and that what Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam taught us, being kind in your speech, being soft in your speech. All right. However, the least we can do is disagree with this action. Tell your kids that, you know what, you're in a country where khalas, you don't have to accept it. It's going to be all around you. Be respectful. However, do not acknowledge that this is allowed in Islam. Do not try to find loopholes. Do not agree with this action. We have to teach this from now, because as much as you may tell them once or twice, there's 10 times more that they see this action being normalized. Be it in ads. Forget about longer cartoons or movie ads. Even small 5-second clips are promoting this action. It's become surrounded. It's surrounding us. It's like you're backed up in a corner. And it's being, it's an underlying issue that's not being addressed by a lot of people. Too many people are scared to talk about this issue. Too many people are scared to accept the fact that this is an issue. So again, spread this. Make sure that this is not normalized. And while saying all of this, be extremely, extremely cautious of the fact that we are Muslims, all right? That number one, in all matters, in all aspects, that our deen should not be hindered. Our morals should not be hindered. Be it this sin, be it this whatever, but at the same time, in all other aspects, be it work, be it, for example, you see something that you really wanted, it's on the floor right there, but this is not your property. There's rulings for what happens when you find the lost object. This is a small example, but apply Islamic morale to every aspect of your life. Your thought process and your life. Forget about your thought process. Every aspect of your life revolves around Islam. Likewise, how your prayers should be your priority. You revolve your schedule around your prayer times. That's how it should be, not your prayer times around your schedule. Prioritize the pleasure of Allah. And one thing before we conclude, Prophet Ibrahim alayhi salam, when he was in the fire, All right, and this is another story for another time. When he was in the fire, he could be burned. He could work, make dua for his family. He can make dua for X, Y, and Z. He asked for the pleasure of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, that Allah be pleased with him when Angel Jibreel came to him. قُلْنَا يَا نَارُ كُونِي بَرْدًا وَسَلَامًا عَلَىٰ إِبْرَاهِيمَ. And that fire was cool for Ibrahim. Only part that was burned was the chain, so that way he can walk unscathed. So pleasure of Allah. Make sure that your priorities are straight. Make sure that you are teaching this to your kids. Make sure that you are cautious of what you yourself and your families are watching. And be cautious of the mindset that is being pushed for your kids. And make sure that your Islamic morals are not hindered. And while all of this is being said, most importantly, you as an individual are a reflection of your deen. Not how you are as a person. The deen has no flaws. Islam has no flaws. All the religions that came previously, us, the people that follow the religion, are a reflection of that religion. People don't have time. Muslims don't have time to know about Islam, let alone non-Muslims. So your actions are a reflection of who you are. And the actions are a reflection of the deen. If someone sees me walk outside like this, and with this on my head, and I go outside cursing, road rage, all these things, I am a reflection of Islam. People will look at me and say, look, he's Muslim and he's out of his mind. But on the other hand, if they see this on my head, and they see me helping someone, we ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to make our intentions pure for Him and for Him only, and to allow us to do good actions. If they see this, they'll associate this with Islam, and that's how you portray the justness of Islam or the beauty of Islam, through your actions. So while we are combating this issue as well, and we ask Allah to protect future generations from this issue, make sure that you are cautious of the reputation of Islam, and that your actions reflect good morals, good manners. Disagree with this action, but make sure that whatever you say and you do, combat it in a way that, number one, we were taught, and address this issue in the way that we're supposed to address it, and address it with good mannerisms. Disagreeing is not bad mannerisms. You can disagree with something and vocalize that and still be mannered. And that's the way we as Muslims should do it, because like I mentioned multiple times, our actions are a reflection of our deen. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to allow us to portray Islam correctly. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to allow us to have good morale. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to allow us to be strict and firm in our deen. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to allow us to adapt to the deen, to apply the deen into our lifestyle. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to allow us to obey Him, to worship Him and alone. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to allow us, for our future generations, to be protected from the sin. And we ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to cleanse the Muslim ummah, to unite the Muslim ummah, and to make the brotherhood and the familyhood strong. And once again, most importantly, we ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to unite us in Jannat al-Firdaus. ربنا آتنا في الدنيا حسنة وفي الآخرة حسنة وقنا عذاب النار. أقول قولي هذا واستغفر الله لي ولكم. سبحانك اللهم وبحمدك أشهد أن لا إله إلا أنت أستغفرك وأتوب إليك. أقم الصلاة.
الله أكبر الله أكبر. أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله. أشهد أن محمدا رسول الله. حي على الصلاة حي على الفلاح. قد قامت الصلاة قد قامت الصلاة. الله أكبر الله أكبر. لا إله إلا الله.
استقيموا واستوطوا على الصراط اليوم. الله أكبر. الحمد لله رب العالمين الرحمن الرحيم مالك يوم الدين إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين اهدنا الصراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين آمين. قل أندعو من دون الله ما لا ينفعنا ولا يضرنا ونرد على أعقابنا بعد إذ هدانا الله كالذي استهوته الشياطين في الأرض حيران له أصحاب يدعونه إلى الهدى ائتنا قل إن هدى الله هو الهدى وأمرنا لنسلم لرب العالمين وأن أقيموا الصلاة واتقوه وهو الذي إليه تحشرون وهو الذي خلق السماوات والأرض بالحق ويوم يقول كن فيكون قوله الحق وله الملك يوم ينفخ في الصور عالم الغيب والشهادة وهو الحكيم الخبير. الله سمع الله لمن حمده. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. الحمد لله رب العالمين الرحمن الرحيم مالك يوم الدين إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين اهدنا الصراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين آمين. ويطوف عليهم ولدان مخلدون إذا رأيتهم حسبتهم لؤلؤا منثورا وإذا رأيت ثم رأيت نعيما وملكا كبيرا عاليهم ثياب سندس خضر واستبرق وحلوا أساور من فضة وسقاهم ربهم شرابا طهورا إن هذا كان لكم جزاء وكان سعيكم مشكورا إنا نحن نزلنا عليك القرآن تنزيلا واذكر اسم ربك بكرة وأصيلا. الله سمع الله لمن حمده. الله الله أكبر. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله.